This video will be calculating the user's score based on the correct and wrong answers when they submit the form. At this point, when we submit the form, the user's is informed of the correct answers by having that green tick symbol next to the correct answers and the red X next to the incorrect answers. But we'd also like to let the user know how much they got out of, the number of questions, which in this case would be 2 out of 3. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, we will keep the code as is. We just need to add a few things. So right before we start looping our array of questions, looping through the array of questions, we want to declare an integer variable for our score, and we'll put that in a local variable called score using let, and we start off with a 0 value. Now, the only time we would like score to be incremented is when the user actually makes a selection and that selection is actually correct. So to do that, we'll just increment score by 1. If we save, nothing will happen because we haven't displayed our score to the user. And we can do that right after we finish with the looping of the selected questions. And so what we can do is we actually can put this core element into a variable called score element and grab that using the get element by its ID. But we haven't got that ID yet, so let's create it. So right before, wherever you want to display to the user the result of the score, is where you want to define your elements, which is a paragraph for me in this case. So I'm going to give it an ID and I'll close it off. There'll be nothing in here. So I'm just going to put in some test data and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is where we want the score to be displayed. So I'll take it off for now because we don't want the score, we don't want anything to be displayed until the user finishes with the submission. And now we grab that element by its ID, which is the score. And then what we do is we set the text content of this element to a string. So we can say whatever we want to tell the user. Your score is, and here I'm using string concatenation and just attaching that, so concatenating this score. And here would be what you want to say, plus, and then we don't want to say 3, because if we ever increase the number of questions in our array, it's always going to be static. So we want this to change based on the length property of the number of elements in our array. So that's pretty much what we have. Let's save and refresh. And once we make a submission, we get that result. If we make correct answers, we get 3 out of 3, and 1 wrong, 2 out of 3, 2 wrong would be 1 out of 3, and all of them wrong would be 0 out of 3. Let's bring it back to 3 out of 3 because it always looks good. All right, so that's pretty much it. Another way of doing this would be to use string interpolation. So I'll just show you the other way of doing that since we've been speaking about. So this would be using string concatenation, and this would be using string interpolation. So I'll show you the difference. Now let's just comment this out for now. And over here, to enclose a string for string interpolation, you would use the backtick. And so that would be the key under your escape and this whole thing. So I'm just gonna end it like that and we'll fix a few things. So every time you want something to come dynamically, enclose that start off with a $sign and enclose that in a curly brace, and you don't need to concatenate. So this is all of it would be part of the string. We can get rid of this part, $, curly braces, these are going to be dynamically changing. So that's another way of doing things. Check your answers. It works exactly the same, just another way and just another alternative to doing things. All right, so I hope this helped you, and stay tuned for the next one.